Hello and welcome to episode 230 of the FReality Podcast. Today's show is not sponsored, so instead I'd like to dedicate this one to all the hardworking hardware and software engineers out there who rarely get shout-outs but spend their sleepless nights working out challenging problems so you and I can just melt away into another existence whenever we want. We owe them a lot of thanks. With that, here are today's teaser topics. Grand Theft Auto and VR dreamers have a nibble. VR BCI that you definitely did not expect. VRTO is a vision of the future. And Lume Pad 2 is bringing 3D back to life. Towards the end of the show, Senor Rowdy is stepping into releases to give us a cut of what VR's got in store for you in the weeks ahead. All right, on to my esteemed co-hosts. Taking a break this week is our VR tech. Jose is taking a bench seat and will be supporting from the sidelines with a large foam hand that says, "Go Rangers!" but is actually scribbled out and says FReality instead. Next lad. He was away last time, but he's back. Surprisingly not smothered in syrup nor covered in cream. But that's all right. He's a Belgian waffle all on his own and needs no sweeteners. Open wide and get your forks and knives ready. It's Rowdy.
Hey,
Rowdy.
I'm currently not in Canada. Indeed, like you mentioned already, I'm currently staying over with my parents. I went to visit them in Belgium, so it's been good to be back for a little while at least. You know, like some things are changing for us, so it's like kind of cool to like just be back with the within the old house. Like some of the people who have watched this show like a very long time ago probably remember the background that I have here. That was during the period probably that I was moving as well to Canada initially a couple of years ago. And actually I did the interview with David Hayter. I did that exactly in this spot as well. So if you go back and watch that, then you recognize the environment as well. So but no, I've been great. Things have been really busy with the traveling, of course, but yeah, it's good to be back. You know, I always find it fun to be on the show and to talk and complain about everything that's been going on in my life and in the virtual reality world. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one for sure.
Oh man, well, Rowdy, it's good to have you back in the seat with us. I always feel like the IQ of the podcast is raised a couple of notches every time you're here with us.
I think I would disagree with that. Okay.
Yeah, but that's what they say. You know, the more you learn, the less you know, right? So that's case in point right there. Anything you wanted to highlight over the last couple of hectic weeks, or are you just traveled down?
I don't even have my VR headset with me at the moment. So for me, it's just been like, you know, trying to get my life back on the rails. So that's mainly the thing I've been trying to do. Yeah, for sure.
How's that laptop treating you? Now that
it's been nice. I've only had one issue, and that was a technical issue I had before the show. Is that for some reason I'm not able to charge it? So I had to like quick fix a solution with a USB-C port. So I'm hopefully that's going to work out. And I think I might already have to go and buy a new cable or an adapter. I hope it's nothing wrong with the laptop, but
that's how they get you.
Yeah, Apple should make their products a little bit better. No,
could be that. Did you buy it in North America?
Yeah.
Could it be the fact how are you converting the power? I guess the brick is still anyway. We'll go through the technology side of this. Another time. But my brain's already jumping on one of the possible realm of electricals. So with that, at the helm for this high-tech cast, she's our Wizard of Oz, the Queen Crab, the Walkabout Wanderer, and generally a wicked witch who keeps finding more ways to trim toenails and boil bats. It's the one and only Adam Bombardi.
Such an accurate description. Always just spot on.
Queen Crab.
Well, my astrological sign or whatever is Cancer. Not that I'm so deep into horoscopes that I care about that thing. But anyway, I came back from Romania last week. We did like an offsite with the Live team. There was like 12 to 14 of us. I forget exactly how many around there. But it was fun because there's nothing like bonding with your you get to see another side of your coworkers when you're all drinking. You know? But mostly in a good way. I mean, like I can genuinely say that I do.
Wait. I love it when you say mostly. So now I kind of want to hear about the part not mostly
Well,
the good
no.
way. Like what is?
I mean, like in my case, I'm sure that for like maybe other people or other companies, like you got that one person who's just not a great, when they drink, they just get angry or whatever. But that's not the case with Liv.
That's Adam. That's definitely Adam.
I'm a very happy drunk, thank you very much. And then until I get tired, and then I'm just tired. That's it. But it was so nice. It's I can genuinely say that I do, love everybody that I work with, and it was so great. At first we stayed in Cluj, which was more city, but then for like 3 days we stayed like in traditional Romanian cabins in like the middle of nowhere. It's just like the road is just dirt and rock, and it was interesting, but it was fun. It was nice to like just wake up and not have obligations. So I was just sit outside on the porch, and it was nice, like just to not have to wake up and do traditional work. It's just like I can just enjoy myself and be outside and just be in a different country. I don't know. It was really nice. And then I had, like post vacation depression a little bit. I was like, back to the States. But it was super fun. And kind of actually tying into some VR stuff that I've been doing. I noticed that I got a little sad because I know, a lot of people from Europe are bilingual. I feel like people from the States are not so much. And so it makes me feel very, I don't know, inadequate, very dumb. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I can say it in 3 different languages, but anyway.
So what I started doing, because I was like, okay, closest to me, most people speak Spanish, and Spanish is also a really popular language. And I couldn't take it in high school because all the Spanish speakers took the Spanish classes, so I took Japanese, which was still cool. But I started doing Duolingo, of course, on my phone, but I've also started dabbling in Nountown, that the VR app that teaches you languages and stuff, and it's really cool.
Right.
Like it's been really useful because you do learn nouns. So you start off in like a cafe or bakery, and you grab like an object and you hold it up to your ear, and it'll tell you what that thing is in Spanish, and then you can hold the trigger and read it back. And you can talk to like the islanders and have conversations and stuff. So that in combination with Duolingo has been helping a lot. And it's like, I don't want to be dumb anymore.
I love Adam's like perspective on this, because it's exactly how I felt when I first like moved to Europe. It's like you feel like everyone else has this special power, and you're like the one who's like,
I know,
I don't know,
like most
the
people
runt of the
speak
litter.
English, but I like, say if they decided to go to Mexico and they want, or like a cruise or something, because like we had our Romanian guys were around, so they were able to help translate and everything when we were there, because like when we were in the middle of the country, like hardly anyone spoke English. So I want to feel like I can help or contribute, or just like not stereotypical American that only knows English, like at least try. So that's, yeah. But so Nountown's been helping me a lot, and it's really cool, and I recommend it if you are looking to learn new languages. I think they have like 5 different ones.
Is it out now? Because I remember it being in alpha, and I think I tried it then, but I'm not sure. Has it been released subsequently, or
it's on Steam and on Quest.
Okay.
Don't know about PlayStation, but I've been playing it on the Quest just because it's portable. Bless you.
Yeah. Look.
Thank you.
Learning in VR is a real special thing. I think whether it's putting you in the seat of someone else. Like I remember seeing one of those BBC, I think it was Syrian refugees on a boat, and it really impresses upon you something. But it's also the same thing with spatial learning, right? You see something in a physical way, and it tends to stick better. So good luck with that in your language lessons. Before long. One question I had for both of you is, given we don't seem to have quite enough of European influence these days, although those were our roots, starting off, I was curious, like, what stands out to you as something that's better abroad than, back home in North America, so to speak? So, like, what's one thing that kind of stands out?
I got this one because it's another thing I felt inadequate about was just history. Because yes, we, North America, we came from Europe, but when you get to hear about like Romanian history, or even Netherlands, wherever I've gone, they have like such deep-rooted cultures and history, and us, we're like, we took it over from Native Americans, and it's kind of, we're kind of English and French, and like there's nothing really unique, I feel like, about the States. Although I did have a nice perspective from a coworker. He was like, yeah, the States are younger, but you kind of hold on to your history tighter because of it. Like, we've got Civil War reenactments and all kinds of other stuff that happens. So I guess I don't know how I felt about that.
Part. Yeah, we don't do that in Europe. Like, we don't want to reenact our wars. I don't think that's a good idea at all.
Us, our own people, so it's not as bad, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's one thing is history. Is I really wish, like, I'm very jealous of Europe history and culture because it's so long and deep and rich, and it's just like, we got French fries, which aren't really ours, or nothing's really ours.
They're ours. What are you talking about? They're Belgian.
Well, that's why I said nothing is ours.
Still our fries.
Yeah, I don't know. Growing up in the Caribbean, I had to take Caribbean history, and I had this big cackling Ursula woman of a Caribbean history teacher, and she liked to collect male torture devices and brought in the collection to show the teenage audience that she had in the class. And it was like, and so this screws in there and that, oh my, it was like that. So
what class was this again?
Yeah, history.
Oh, history.
Caribbean history. Oh. Yeah. It's mostly kind of educating you about the slave trade and where the Caribbean islands took part in that. And there's a whole bunch of there's really, really deep culture and history that doesn't get covered in the typical American syllabus. And so it's important if you're on the islands to learn that stuff. But yeah, one thing I didn't expect was twisty metal objects for gentlemen. Didn't expect that. Don't Google that now. You'll ruin your search history. What about you, Rowdy? Europe, what's the taste of home, or what's something that's new out there that's special?
Like special in Belgium?
Yeah.
Waffles?
Like, except for fries and mayonnaise and Belgian waffles, there's not really that much.
Wait,
well, that's
hang on a second. This time of year,
I feel like
you've got Tomorrowland. That's one thing that's really cool.
I don't go to Tomorrowland. That's not my kind of thing.
What is Tomorrowland?
No,
it's fucking awesome. It's an awesome festival.
Oh,
it's a giant drug festival.
Yay, drugs! So proud of my country.
It's like it's like techno and house, I would say, right? That's like the big thing there. They have huge DJs that come and perform there, and the entire thing they construct looks really cool and really futuristic. I think that's pretty neat, yeah. But it's not my kind of music, no, not at all. No interest whatsoever. Never been, never will.
Oh, good. Well, I just want to say thanks to chat and our regular listeners, as I don't often stop and smell the roses. The roses are you. So thanks for being our good-smelling garden is what I'm saying. I know how much Rowdy appreciates a hearty horticultural audience. And for those of you who don't know, the very few I'd imagine, I'm Zim. It's been 2 weeks since my last FReality podcast. The withdrawal symptoms are settling down, thankfully. And today's show is exactly, I think, what I've been craving. So one thing, if you'd like to know a little bit more about me and my backstory, here's a quick plug for the Between Realities podcast, where I chatted with Alex and Skiva, gave props to a few old friends in the industry, and finally got that one off my bucket list after about 3 years in the queue. There were also episodes featuring Adam and Rowdy, and Jose most recently as well. So if you want to know more about the cast, go check them out there. My last 2 weeks were brimming with action, actually. More than often. I'm more of an in-house kind of guy, but the last 2 weeks I've been off on vacation and went to Canada's Wonderland again. Theme park. Went to go check out the water park and slides and all that kind of stuff. Went into one of their things called a black hole, where it's completely dark tunnels, going in the water. And honestly, that kind of freaks me out. So that was a fun one. And then yesterday we went to see Medieval Times here in Toronto, which you'll know about if you've seen the movie The Cable Guy, where Jim Carrey goes to town on his buddy. Totally mad. It's wenches and plates full of food, crowds cheering, and a feckin' awesome falconer. Like seeing a real live hunting falcon flying above your heads, literally soaring right past your ear, with death kill talons is pretty impressive. And to top it off, then I had my annual barbecue this week. So just grilled it out back. Totally got fat this week, man.
Yeah.
I put so much food down. It's crazy. Chilled out in our hammock and aside from all that horseplay, and applying a lake's worth of aloe vera to heal my burns because I'm not the kind of lad who's smart and puts sunscreen on. I also had a go at Spatial Ops and Space Pirate Arena again with our guests. So we went out and found a field and did some of that. So I just want to give a shout, and that's part of my applause for engineers who make something happen, because room scale, like full room scale VR where you got to use your damn legs and move about is, in my opinion, like just a magical solution. That formula is just beautiful. So whether it's iLlusions or Resolution Games, you guys, you're my heroes. Running around and playing, it's just an undeniable, unparalleled VR experience for me. Fresh air and VR is also a very powerful concoction I've found for just setting the bar on fun. So those are my highlights.
If people are wondering how Zim looks like with burns, you could go and check out the picture that Jose posted not too long ago, right after the Green Realities podcast. I think that's a pretty good estimate of how Zim would look like.
Oh my God, Adam! If you're able to throw that on screen, you're permitted.
Or I'll throw it in chat. It might take me a little bit.
Hilarious. I saw it and I was like, "Oh my God!" It looked like I used to be a hospital porter, and I've dealt with people with third-degree burns, and that's what they look like completely, not even like beet red, like you are. Yeah, it was mad, like saturation gone wild.
Lobster red Zim.
Yeah. But no, I was like, oh, I'm gonna even out my tan. I'll just take the shirt off, be shirtless for the day. Yeah, that wasn't so smart. It's been quite warm here.
I thought that was a filter. Like I thought that it was just like not a filter, but your camera, the white balance is off, and so.
In this case, it is. But Rowdy's actually seen me quite burned, and it's not far from the truth when I get proper burns. So. That's a pretty good
I think it was the HDR option, right? With the screen from Jose. I think that's all it was.
But I can't imagine.
But it just looked hilarious.
Watching content like that, like everyone's blown out to all hell. Like it's amazing.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant. It gave me a laugh too. I'm glad you called it out. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll jump into the newsreel. So first off, Brady wasn't here last week when we, flooded Adam's home environment, caused all their friends to come over to throw up on the walls and stuff like that. Well, we've leveled up the augmented reality game now. So let's have Rowdy in the middle of his room with a great white shark pet to keep you company. I think this sounds good. All you need, Rowdy, is a MetaQuest Pro, and you can be dropping meat for your friend Sharky Shark all afternoon. I mean, how would you like a shark tank in the middle of your home? I'm curious.
It's like evil lair status, Like, yeah, check out my shark, but you got to put on this awkward VR headset to do it. Or I'm assuming, right? Because this is, it's using a Quest because it's got hand tracking. But
yep.
I mean, if we can get this on glasses, I guess, or put little glasses on your party guests when they come in, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a little breathtaking, actually, getting sharks swimming around. So for the audio listeners, what we're seeing on screen is looks like a large glass window with sun rays coming down, and through that you get to see Ocean Rift's original great white shark experience, where the shark is just swimming around. And with the Quest Pro, they've done it through AR, so it overlays on your actual walls of your home environment, and you've got a daunting shark just swimming around, enjoying some fresh meat. Probably just went to medieval times, I'm guessing.
It's just giant hams. It's just like the stereotypical ham with the bones sticking out. That's like they just toss that in there, and there you go. A lot of detail in the shark.
You should have done it with like a megalodon. That would have been sweet.
That would have been awesome. Be huge.
There you go. So that's one for anybody who's a big fan of Shark Week every week or every year, and that one should do very well. Another thing that I wanted to share, which is the constraints, because we now know that the Vision Pro, the Apple Vision Pro headset, which is eagerly awaited for 2024 release, is coming. There are some developer rules for getting one of these, how you have to protect it. And because most of us listening to the cast, unlike Gigonen, who I saw in chat, don't have access to this kind of equipment or opportunity as a developer, I thought it'd be interesting to share this on the show. So, Adam, I'm going to let you read this one out when you get a chance. I know it's kind of small, so just go ahead, verbalize it for us.
I'll just awkwardly stare up at my second monitor. Don't mind me. You agree that all access to, usage of, and storage of the DK will be private, secure workspace accessible by only you and your authorized developers, e.g. fully enclosed with solid doors, floors, walls, ceiling, and locks that can be engaged while the DK is in use. You must ensure that the unauthorized personas, including any family, friends, roommates, or household employees, do not access, view, handle, or use the DK. When in use, the DK should be in your positive control on your persona or within your direct line of sight at all times. You must ensure the DK is passcode protected. Never leave the DK unattended. When not in use, turn off the DK and store it in its locked Pelican case in its locked space that only you have access to, e.g. a locked room or closet, a safe, or locked drawer. DK may not be moved from or taken away from its shipped address by you or your authorized developers without Apple's prior written consent. You will be away from your workspace for more than 10 if you will be away from your workspace for more than 10 days, consult your Apple point of contact about how to keep your DK safe while you are away, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Gotta look after that baby, right? So lock it up. I'm glad there's no fingerprint read requirement, but it's just some people might feel that that's a bit overboard, but of course Apple's quite secret. And from what we hear, I saw a few industry vets confirming that most developer kits come with very similar requirements. But I haven't seen them written out like this before, so interesting to see it. What do you think as our Apple fanboy of the podcast, Rowdy? Do you think that's it's appropriate?
I think it's perfectly appropriate. No, it's stupid. I mean, it's like that kind of hand holding that just like pisses me off. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think it's. I mean, I'm guessing it's just like to put themselves in a safe spot in case something does happen that you didn't do whatever it is that they said, and then they can make your life a lot harder. But I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, those guardrails are interesting because when you read them like that, it seems like pretty iron curtain. It's like, oh my God, this is like I've entered a dictatorship. At the same time, there's some things in that maybe wouldn't occur to you. Like, I'm going on holiday. Maybe I should tell them, the security of the device. But what do they do then? What do they do? You're like, oh, I'm going to be away from my house for 30 days.
You ship it back?
Did they have you send it back? Yeah. Do they have you send it back? Does someone come like a secure, courier, like when you're getting a passport expedited, where someone comes to your house?
They send like a genius guy to your house who just stays there.
He sits in your chair, watches your family.
You need to put like food there, like some drinks, and then he just stays in your house in that seat.
I have heard though that this is pretty common. Like I think with the PSVR 2, from what I've read, is it also had like it has to be locked to a certain table or device or something. And you know what? With all this, though, I'm surprised we don't get more leaks because I mean, it's written out, but I feel like it's so hard to like just completely outside proof a physical headset when you have one. I guess if your family isn't as, they don't care about tech and much, they're just like, oh, no, that's my husband or wife's cool gadgets and they don't really care.
The other thing that I would say is, like, if you've got a sensitive device like that and it's in your hands and you've had previous sensitive devices, I feel like if you're too talkative on social media, not directly about the device, but maybe almost as that like third person character that you're talking about, like reacting to certain things, people can discern that you have it and they might just target you to break into your house and go get one, particularly competitors in the corporate space, or, we're talking about huge bucks, right? So they could incent them to do the wrong thing. But anyway, I thought that was interesting for people who maybe hadn't been exposed to it before. With that, let's move on to Reddit. So normal kind of dip dive into things that we see are interesting over on the Reddit landscape. Well, Reddit is still called Reddit. As posted by Laura the Dev on Reddit, they're building a giant procedural city in VR, which, a la GTA 5, every single building can be entered. This is called Vuntra City. I don't know what that name means, but Vuntra City VR, and you can follow the developments on Twitter at Vuntra_city. But it looks like a pretty neat future. As someone who's really incentivized to wander, a little nod to the Wander app, And, in Minecraft and things like that, I tend to just go for a walkabout. So this looks really neat. It certainly looks better than a lot of the other 3D worlds that I've seen that have been kind of procedurally generated or what have you. But this has a lot of nice texturing work, and as far as I can tell from the videos, seems quite performant as well. So that's pretty neat. And this is coming off of the Unreal Engine. So that is.
I love that like almost every door has like the sliding.
They don't open like a standard door. Yeah. Probably easier on the dev, I think. Any other reactions to that? Big city to go explore.
It's pretty. I wonder if.
I mean, like.
Go ahead, Rowdy first.
I'm wondering if they're gonna like populate, or is it just like to look at things?
Yeah,
that'd be cool to see a post-apocalyptic city. I would love that. Like, it doesn't have to be all shiny and
neat,
touristy and slidey doory.
That's got to be more complicated from a Mesh's perspective, but I agree with you, Adam. I would much prefer something set in a Last of Us world or something. Something like you're saying, post-apocalyptic, to go and venture and explore. A large, wide swath territory like that could be leveraged for something like a DayZ VR setting. And it doesn't have to be highly populated, but provided that you've got persistence in your character and you can wander across it and discover stuff and run into other real people, wow, you've got a really compelling VR experience then, right? What I wouldn't want it to turn into is a giant advertisement. Hey, let's all sell ad space in this soulless metaverse, right? I wouldn't want that. And unfortunately, it looks a little bit more like the latter. So yet to see where we're going, but with the direction that AI and generation is going, I think we're going to see a lot more of these on the near horizon. So that's cool to see. That was Ventura City. Another one, bit of sad news for everyone out there who enjoyed the Microsoft saga with Kinect and Harmonix music behind Dance Central. For those who didn't know, there was a VR game called Dance Central, partly supported by Oculus Studios. Reddit has said that this is confirmed as dead. It's been delisted from the store, likely a symptom of the Epic acquisition of Harmonix. And the support is said to support teams are said to be giving refunds if you say, hey, my game's not working, I bought it for the license fee, can I have my money back, please? We saw this with Face Your Fears a little while ago, happening with the DLC dying off on the various installations there, both on Quest and Go, for example. I tested this morning. I could install it from scratch for the, I think, 3 GB install size, and I could play a couple of single-player songs, but all the multiplayer stuff said network not functional, even though I was connected to Wi-Fi and everything else was functional. So it does look like the servers and services to the game are gone. So if you like Dance Central, sorry, a bit of sour news for you, but there you go. Either of you dancers?
Of course, every Saturday evening.
Do you? Don't look ready. This is a serious affair.
More rhythmers than dancers. I don't really care for the freestyle dancing. Not freestyle, but where you have to kind of use your whole body and mirror a thing. I just feel, I don't know, I feel very stupid. But that's me. Everybody else looks really cool when they play it, but I feel like when I do it, it's just like a monkey trying to I don't know.
Yeah. Takes work, and that work you got to be a super nerd to put in. So, yeah,
and it does not look good. I don't think anybody looks good doing that.
I agree. Sorry, I don't know if we're Adam seeing that. I don't
Twitch.
Think. I don't think people look good at it.
There's like the people that were really hardcore into. I mean, not the VR version, but hardcore people.
Yeah, the Kinect versions were pretty cool, but stuff like DDR and that, if people are really good at it, it's pretty awesome. One thing the reason I'm echoing this is, again, it's just a cautionary tale of legal rights issues that over time, when IP like this changes hands, and particularly with licensing tied to music, it gets very complicated. We'll talk about legalities a little bit later when we go into the VRTO section, but Guitar Hero, Rock Band, and potentially one day Beat Saber might face a similar fate. So really just something to think about. If you really love those titles, hug them tight while you still got them. Speaking of that, let's talk about texts from my ex. I got to say that every so often, this crew, we have a funny disconnect, and this time it's well worth highlighting, and this brings such a smile to my face. When I was setting the stage for today's show, I mentioned my ex as a topic we'd be discussing. Now, this isn't at all what I meant, but I read the description of the podcast, and I noted that Adam took this to mean. You said in the description, you said we'll
meant
discuss
Twitter.
text from my ex relationship app, which analyzes your conversations using GPT to provide sassy insights, compatibility score to share. So I've got to ask Adam, have you used this app? Have you tried it yourself by any chance? Because you poked this at us, and I was going back through. I was like, how did she get this connected to that? And I was like, oh.
I was wondering, like, why did he misspell X? But then I forgot about the Twitter thing. I literally just made that connection now. Holy crap. Okay, wow. No, I kind of did want to try this before the show, though, but I don't have iMessage, so I would have had to try it on WhatsApp. But also, the last time I've had an X was when I had, like, a flip phone. So I don't know how this would work for me. I was trying to, like, can I fake it? Or do I just like analyze text from my husband and it says we're not compatible, and then what happens then?
That would
be
amazing.
And then you have an X.
Yeah, there we go. All right, I can finally test the app out.
Get some confetti on screen. You know, it was worth it. But yeah, that's it. That's actually a good point you bring up. I mean, how far back in history can this thing trawl? But for those singletons out there who maybe are recent breakups, then check this out. Maybe you have better luck next time around.
I'm telling you, stay the hell away from this kind of stuff. This is a bad idea. This is such. You know what this is? This is Black Mirror. You know the thing where they like go back in memory and they, you can see like the videos that episode, like this is the start of this. You don't want to do this. You don't want to get started with this.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning it. I just thought it was like,
it.
Look at AI maybe not doing great things for you being used for great purposes.
Yeah, I saw this and the immediate thought was data harvesting. That's all I thought. I saw this and I'm like, how much data are they getting? If you're giving someone, all your SMS messages, all your WhatsApps or whatever, those are typically encrypted platforms. And you're like, open gates, here you go. I don't even know how you grant that access, but I saw this, Adam, and I was like, no.
But also, like, if you look at the terms, because of course I looked at the terms and conditions, because this is what I like, and they're saying they're not storing any data. The only thing they do is they exchange it with the OpenAI API, and I'm like, but that's sharing it with a third party, right? You don't know how OpenAI is like actually storing this kind of data, and that OpenAI is using this kind of stuff if you're not careful with like trying to like get this. I don't know. It just makes me a little bit. I don't trust it.
Before you know it, your last sloppy relationship Rowdy's ending up on OpenAI as a story for the next Harry Potter, fueling it. Oh, Hermione. Oh, that's great. Couldn't get him off those beaver tail addictions or whatever. All right, so that was texts from my ex, which was a funny side step from.
I feel very stupid now.
No, you're usually really, really good. I have to say this. I give you almost like no intro, and Adam like almost always gets it perfect. So I have to clash the cymbals anytime you get it wrong and just have a laugh. It's very funny, very funny. But yeah, what I meant by my ex was two parts really. Was that in one part, for some of us, our darling Twitter has already been through enough trauma, but now. All of a sudden, Elon Musk has opted to rebrand it to just X. I personally think is flatly irresponsible. Certainly up there, maybe even more so than the Oculus brand being upturned by Meta. I mean, building a brand over a decade or whatever, and then just literally throwing it in the garbage bin, I think is just completely stupid. I can't even imagine, right? Now, one thing is, Musk has people currently blowtorching Twitter logos off their iconic office locations around the world, removing birds, top and all that. Even the word tweet is going away, apparently. Now, I love when someone comes in as the new owner and says, like, you will call it this. And a lot of people rebuttal. And we saw MKBHD said the same thing. He's like, I'm going to still call it Twitter. And Musk is like, yeah, not for long, buddy. It's like you can't control language, right? I gotta answer something. Like, why X, right? So as reported by The Verge, the letter X has been on just about everything that Musk has touched for the last 2 decades, about 20 years. X.com, for those who don't know, was the original name for PayPal. Okay, it's obviously in SpaceX, his rocket company. It's in the name for his Tesla SUV, which is X.AI, and his kit, right? X-A12. At 4 points.
Of course, his kid XHA12. Yeah, maybe you should have called his website like that. It kind of it's a little bit more fluid.
But now I presume we're going to get the migration back to X.com as an everything app for social and a bunch of other things. But this feels like a kid without floaties drowning in a pool to me. It really does. How do you both feel about Twitter in general these days? And do you see a future for it under this new X brand?
I mean, I've pretty much like deleted the app. Like, I barely use Twitter still. I've never been. I mean, I also don't really use Instagram anymore, and I try not to use Facebook either. So maybe I'm like a bad example, but like, there's only so much social media I can handle, and I feel like Twitter has turned into this drama pool of like, I mean, the only reason I feel sometimes that people are watching it or still on it is to like be part of that drama, or to like, I don't know, like it's just not for me anymore. I use it a little bit professionally with a different account, but for the rest, it's not really. I don't know. I don't use it for news. I don't use it to stay up to date. I much prefer things like I think Reddit is a great source of news information still, even though that can be a little bit of a septic pit as well. I use LinkedIn professionally quite a bit as well, but for the rest, I don't know. Like it's Twitter just feels now like I mean I have blocked. Like you can like choose like not to see posts. Because every time I'm opening, it's like, oh, Elon Musk has done this, or Elon Musk has done that. I feel like no matter how many times that I say that I'm not interested in it, I keep on getting that kind of stuff, and that kind of was for me a little bit the trigger for. I mean, I respect the dude for like the accomplishments he has had, but as an individual and as like the kind of business decisions and sometimes like the kind of weird approach of introducing business to science, which he very, very often does very successfully, I sometimes just don't really agree with. And as a scientist, then it's sometimes for me a little bit hard to like get around that. He's surrounded by a lot of smart people, though. There's he's done that I think really well, and I think that it's the kind of companies that he has started have changed the world as we look at it. But I don't think X.com is a part of that.
Yeah. What about you, Adam? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's a case of I really wish that this person stayed off of Twitter, sort of thing. Because it's like I respected him for SpaceX, Tesla. I wouldn't say I like him. I was just very neutral. I was like, okay, he's had some good contributions. I think I disliked his fans more than himself. But then once he started yammering off on Twitter, once I got to kind of see, get to know him better, I was like, I went from being kind of neutral about you to now disliking you very strongly, all because you felt like you had to run your mouth on social media. It's like, why do so many people feel that they have to ruin themselves like that? And just, I don't know. Twitter was the platform that I went on the most. I got to keep in touch with other VR people, meet new VR people, get different opportunities with game companies or what have you. So it makes me so sad to see it go downhill. And I've kind of tried Threads, but it's like broken for me right now for some reason. So I know it's like, where do I go? I don't know.
I don't know, but kind of like echoing on what Rowdy was saying, like I feel like my trust has been broken. I don't trust the feed that I'm fed anymore on Twitter. And that change is almost timed exactly when Musk started making changes to the platform, and it's been degrading. This actually feels very, very similar to me. To again chime on what you were saying there, Adam, it feels very similar to when Amazon took over Twitch, and things started to they were making design decisions that were counter to what the community was all about. And so for Twitter, for me, as many of you will know, I mean, I get a lot of developer crisscross. So like what you're saying, Adam, there's people who I've met through Twitter. Over the years, it's been a great info source. I used to use a live news feed called twitterfall.com, which was live news. So, for example, when Japan was going through tsunamis and stuff, I could see hundreds of tweets coming in real time, like literally like rain, kind of like the Matrix. And you could get the pulse of what was going on in an emergency situation, or if there was an earthquake in a position, you could real time see news happening. Humans reacting to it. And a lot of that got rate limited and cut and stopped, halted. And then the recent changes have made it feel like it's curated. It no longer has its own voice. And so like Rowdy, I tend to go to front page of internet type websites, things like Reddit, looking for news, looking for really the old feeling of forums back in the day. But this is really important for VR because it's been a really important spine for us. And that's why I wanted to mention it. And so kind of laughing against the My Ex app that we were just talking about, Adam, I feel like this is like, you're at the end of a party, like you're at a house party or something, and it's cut down to, I don't know, a third of the people left. It's really dying off kind of thing. Feels like that on Twitter right now. I'm not saying it's dead tomorrow, but it doesn't feel like it's going to regain its strength. I feel like it's maybe on its way out. And I don't see an obvious platform to step to next. And I hope we have one.
And the thing was, and sometimes I find it a little bit confusing because a lot of people give Elon Musk a lot of credit for like the companies that he has indeed made big, but many of those companies were founded by different people. Like I know, for example, PayPal was not founded by Elon Musk. There were, I think, 2 or 3 other people. And X.com was actually sort of like a different kind of financial website and kind of bought out PayPal, and PayPal became then like integrated into that. And with Tesla as well, Tesla was founded by other people as well, where Elon Musk, I think, did became a major funder. And then he became on the board of directors. And of course, he built up those companies. So he does that really well. But I actually don't know if he ever bought a company, the size of what? He never bought a company the size of Twitter, but a company that's already very big or like has a huge, well, I wouldn't say it's big, but like has a huge
existing base.
Existing base and familiarity and something like that. And doing something with that specifically, because what he has done before, and he does that really well, is buy a company with a really good or solid idea and build that out, and use his entire network to bring that to the market, basically. But with Twitter, it's kind of like, I feel like he's like a little bit in like new waters and trying to do things that used to work really well by, rebranding it, giving it a new name, and like, using his own kind of like business acumen to bring that company up to, different kind of things and monetizing it and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like it's a little bit like all over the place because he's doing things that used to work really well with companies, that he started out on. Or that he bought and then tried to develop. But with this, it feels a little bit, I don't know. I don't know if this is the right strategy.
Even monetization with Twitter now, like you can't see as many posts, right? Unless you have Twitter Blue or the blue check mark, whatever. So I feel like a lot of companies have pulled off their ads from Twitter because it's like, if you're going to limit the amount of people who are going to see posts in general, why would I want to advertise on Twitter? So then where's the money for Twitter going? Is it just people buying the verified check mark? Like, what's their monetization strategy? I'm very confused by this as well.
I feel like that wasn't clear since prior to the acquisition. And remember how this all started off? He basically was like, "Oh, I'm going to buy Twitter," and then he tried to back out of the deal, and then he got forced.
I feel like it was a high purchase, right? So, it had to be a high purchase. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's interesting. But the reason I care about this in this space, in the context of this podcast, is Twitter gave, in particularly budding indie developers, a great platform to advertise and potentially go viral with their new concept. I remember when Gorilla Tag videos started dropping, for example, and started spinning around the web. And it was this great place where it could gain great reach and impact very quickly. And you didn't have to put necessarily a nickel into it. So I don't know that there's an obvious next step for that. I mean, Facebook is probably what people would say at the moment. So Facebook by Meta, or whatever we call it appropriately these days. So that's the next thing. But I am looking forward to the next evolution of social engagement. And I don't think necessarily that today lives in a VR universe. It's still in really mobile and desktop, right? We don't have that ability to show and tell as readily yet in VR, and I think we need it. We need to get it there at some point. What that will look like, I don't have an idea, but I presume it has to be somewhat present in that spatial environment with you. So
I saw that Gigo Dan posted. Did you guys see the recent pokes Elon did with the metaverse and Jan LeCun? And there's supposed to be a link, but I don't see it myself.
No,
probably got filtered. Yeah,
but like I didn't see that, but I do find it because Jan LeCun is someone that I follow very actively. He's pretty much like a guru god in the machine learning and artificial intelligence kind of field. So yeah, I would be interested in seeing what happened there, because I do feel that Elon is trying to get into that more as well, with his own AI company, yeah, whatever it's called. But yeah, it's kind of weird,
I mean, I don't know. I was also, sorry not to tack on, but it's like, oh, he was very anti-AI, like AI's the devil, and now he's working with a bunch of people to.
Well, the funny thing about
the dangers
that was,
I think, right?
The funny thing about this was that he wanted to put a 6-month stop on it, and I agree. I do think that there should be kind of like a consensus about we need to understand more what these kind of models are doing. But the reason was not for safety. The reason was so that he could play catch up, because 6 months is about the time that you would need with the kind of money that he has, to catch up the companies that are currently on the leading front. So if he would get a 6-month stop, then he could play catch up and then take over with the funding that he has. So it's all these kind of business is all really, really savvy and it's really straight to the point, but I would sometimes like to see a little bit more a modest approach in these kind of things. But I'm guessing business doesn't work like that, so that's why I call myself a scientist and not a business guy.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, Musk is another one of those names that I feel like we hear enough of. Everyone's probably sick of hearing his name, so I will try to actively reduce the amount of news stories that we have with Musk in them, assuming he doesn't pull more carpets out from under our feet elsewhere. I am still holding out that hopefully Reddit stays, I'll say, pure. It's pure internet, like Rowdy said, right? There's the good face and the bad face of Reddit.
Yeah.
But I can still glean useful information from it. It's still a good advertising spot for, devs or those who are coming up with new ideas. And if you've got questions, again, it's a good place to turn. If you've got a funky problem you think no one's ever faced, Reddit's a good place for that stuff. So holding out that hopefully, they slash and burned the Oculus name. Now they've done that to Twitter. Even the app logo on my phone changed, I think, today. So, farewell, Twitter. We're going to miss you on that Twitter logo and all that. But, like MKBHD, I'm going to still be calling it Twitter for some time. X is just a very weird name. And I hope it won't have to become one of my X's before long. With that, let's move on to an awesome blog post from Sony that dropped about 2 days after the last podcast, which we have to show. It goes into how the PSVR 2 hardware was designed, and it features a Q&A with PSVR 2's product manager, Yasuo Takashi. One of the first images shows a bare circuit board with about 20 cables strewn off to the side. The board is placed at about 45 degrees to the skull, and it looks crazy, like this awesome prototype. I can just imagine the engineers and their poor neck strain. But the thing looks really awesome, and it actually resembles somewhat like, the final build. Now, that's probably not the first go, but this article was really neat. And about halfway down the page, we see a skeleton prototype. Which is just an incredible model. And it's a see-through headset, which is very similar to what we saw from Meta. So it's it's white, it's clear, it's see-through in that way. Not the video, Adam, but that's an old video actually from quite a while back. And there was an engineering construction video from, I think it was 2 weeks after the PSVR 2 launched, which is really worth going into if you're of an engineering mindset at all. But the skeleton prototype on the PSVR 2 has this lovely, again, kind of Game Boy-esque style to it. You found it?
Is, yeah. It is cool. Ooh.
You can see the circuit tape inside. There's all kinds of things. The fan assembly, and we've said this, I feel like 3 times in a row now, because we saw the MetaQuest version of similar. Why don't these companies release these headsets? It looks totally cool, right? And it's like we were musing before. It's probably more. It's not as rigid as it needs to be, or whatever. It probably breaks down. But that's not the only prototype they show. They also showed a controller prototype called the Prototype 3. These controllers look like two mini DualShock controllers with rings attached prior to the final design, which are really, really neat. They're kind of like two sides. There you go. You got it. Little game pads. So I wanted to show this off because if there's one thing Sony has done this year better than any other company, which Meta/Oculus used to do very well, it's kind of open the hood after the product is out and show how we got there through R&D. And it's really awesome. I hope they keep doing this because, as I said at the start of the podcast today, it's about the engineers. It's about the software developers. They're solving these problems, and you oftentimes don't get to see any of the work that leads up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But neat to see it. We saw it, I remember, years ago with the HTC Vive. Do you remember Rowdy? Because I know we're around that time and very Vive-centric,
so
I remember.
old.
Do you remember they took a bunch of old recycled Vive headsets and made the Vive logo in this like massive triangle?
I used to have it as a wallpaper. Jesus.
Oh, did you? You loved it that much? Yeah.
What happens?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I know. Down the rabbit hole, all that stuff went. So that's the PSVR 2 hardware. A little bit of other Sony news for you. So remember last time we talked about the SAG-AFTRA strikes and WGA. So due to those strikes, there's been a slight pushback on the Gran Turismo movie for anyone who's been following that. So instead of it coming out on August 11th, in case you were planning on or had tickets, check with your local cinema. That's been pushed back to August 25th. And so that's for the Gran Turismo movie, which covers the evolution of a gamer gone race driver, not unlike Brendan Irebe. All right. The other thing that we've heard ahead of Gamescom, which is kicking off the week of August 23rd, there was speculation that Valve had a spot in the show floor to potentially bring Half-Life Alyx to PSVR 2. This is like the usual rumor mill. Lots of people like to say things. They'll take one grain of salt and they'll turn it into a bag of rice. And so recently, we saw other contrasting articles debunking this, stating that Valve's spot was a historic 2022 booking, and perhaps that they're on the show for some other reason than just business meets, for example, which can happen in these kinds of apps like you have for Gamescom or GDC and that type of thing. But I personally feel like when it comes to Half-Life Alyx, we're probably about as likely to see Half-Life Alyx hit PSVR 2 as we are GTA 5. They're both kind of sitting in Wonderland at the minute. I'd love to have them, but I wouldn't say that either are very likely. What do you guys think? I mean, Rockstar has been sitting for a few years without coming back to VR, right? They did LA Noire quite successfully a little while back. We obviously had the hints years ago about potential for one of the GTAs making it to the Quest. Are we going to see GTA in VR first party ever? What do you think?
I mean, yes. I don't think, because I saw these kind of things like that it wasn't happening anymore. I mean, of course I don't know, but I would assume that Facebook has pulled out quite a chunk of money to get Rockstar to do that. And I don't think, of course they can get it delayed and they can get it whatever, not released in time, and then like stuff like that can happen. But I don't think that it's not going to happen.
Okay.
I think that would make sense.
The Meta Rockstar relationship, even though it's been 3 or has it even been 4 years? Maybe 3 years since they mentioned. Yeah. It's been a long time coming. We've heard no peep since then, and they seem to have axed other projects that they've mentioned, and the only one that's really survived through all of that has been Assassin's Creed, which is done with Ubisoft. So yeah, curious, Adam, what's your take? What do you think?
I don't think
GTA.
I think Rowdy, we are going to see something eventually, but I don't think it's going to be in the next, it'll be after 2 or 3 years, I want to say, is the time scale that I'll give
long?
It. I think it'll be that long.
Like,
I think they're gonna whatever they're working on now is gonna. They're like, oh crap, all of these headsets now have these other features. We have to kind of go back, scrap, and redo a bunch of things. So maybe I don't even know if it'll be 5. Who knows? I think that a lot of like something happened. They realize it's not up to par. They're going in and having to redo just a bunch of everything. And so I think it'll be like it'll be 2 years out probably, if even then. Mm-hmm. So I'm more of a glass half empty. But again, if I'm wrong, I'd be pleasantly surprised. So I'd rather be that way than like, oh yeah, it'll be like next year Christmas title, and then it doesn't come and everyone's sad.
Yeah, I'm probably the least hopeful, least optimistic of the lot of us then, because I feel like Meta and Rockstar doing something at this point feels like not going to happen. I think that Rockstar is likelier to do it on their own when it makes financial sense. And like Adam, I think that's probably 5 years out now. I think it's like going out quite a ways, because I feel like they would want to convert one of their standard IPs and do it like a proper Rockstar treatment, kind of like with Valve, right? Where you take as long as is necessary to hit the quality mark. And I feel like we're not going to get all the games that I wish we were getting. I wish Bethesda would have their whole catalog. I wish Starfield was coming to VR. I wish Elder Scrolls 6 would be VR from out the gates. I wish that GTA 6 from Rockstar would come with VR support. I think we're getting none of that because of the fact that there's, unfortunately, in the industry right now, little to no return on investment for that kind of investment, for that kind of spend at the moment.
I always thought this was some kind of different. I mean, we don't know the exact details of the agreement, right? But how I would imagine this to be is that, of course, we have a Rockstar title, which is GTA 3, right? Or is it GTA
San Andreas?
Right. So it was GTA San Andreas, and then we have Meta not only putting money in that, but I also thought that they would give development help. So they would basically bring in a team to start developing that kind of title.
Sure.
So for Rockstar, this is more of because of course they're not going to spend development time and their own money on making this title, because they're not going to get anything from this. But I would assume, if I was Facebook, that I would say like, the interest here is like, we're going to loan that kind of IP. We're going to bring in the development. We're going to bring in the team. We're going to bring in the money. And then Rockstar, when it gets released, you get the nice surrounding sound.
GTA bell tolls.
GTA. That's why I'm right. That's why I'm right. It's my grandma's clock. But so they would bring in the team, the money, the development, loan the IP, and then Rockstar would eventually get a cut of that money.
It sounds though like an Oculus Studios deal, right? Where like they own a bit of the stake, and I'm guessing here because I don't know the numbers, but I'd be thinking that Facebook won't have forgotten the amount of money it poured into VR software development, and would this year be quite frugal and have the brakes on. And I think not even this year, even last year, right, where they had the layoffs and everything happening. I mean, they were putting money into some things like Oreoverse, but I feel like they were making the wrong bets. You know what I mean? Putting money in the wrong places to help sell their headset. So I don't know. I think there's a higher chance that Sony, kind of similar to Resident Evil, right, in that partnership, that maybe Sony would have struck up a relationship either with Valve or with Rockstar, and that they would be launching as an exclusive title. I think it would work very well in that partnership. And also, I think the ecosystem is more, it's more powerful. It's the right platform for those kinds of games. So that'd be my guess. But I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon, is the sad part of it. So that's all speculation about Gamescom and the Half-Life Alyx rumors we just saw. One additional thing I wanted to talk about was just an experience that I had recently. And I know, Adam, you've spoken about this before, although I don't know. When it comes to location-based experiences, have you done all of them under the sun? Have you done Sandbox, Zero Latency, all that kind of stuff? Or is there one that you prefer?
No, I tried Sandbox, and gosh, there's one other one in, I don't know if anyone will know, in Vegas, Area 51, they have a VR arcade in their area, but I forget the brand. I don't think it's a Zero Latency, because it's not, it wasn't big. It was kind of like Sandbox style. But anyway, I only tried like two or three different companies, but it was fun.
Yeah, that's good. And then what was the company? I can't remember their name. They were there at OC4, I think. Rowdy, do you remember? There was a big company that did location-based experiences. Like initially, they were the VR location-based firm. The Void. Thank you, subs.
Right.
So the Void, if I'm not mistaken, they got their legs back under them, but I think they closed up shop during COVID. They had to shut their doors, and then I heard they were coming back. I don't know of any real world locations. If people in chat know already, let me know. I haven't researched this. But yesterday I got a chance to go check out Zero Latency, which is a company very similarly, right? It's location-based VR experiences. They've got 77 different venues. That's quite a lot, even now. Only a year and a half really past the big COVID shutdown. They're crossing 27 countries, so definitely one of the more successful setups that's out there if you want to go to a place and do free roam VR. So again, similar to what I said with my highlight this week, free roam experiences, I think, are something magical. You can't easily do it at home, particularly if you're in Europe, right? You don't have a house that's that big. You have to really find a place to go. When I was in Scotland, we used to go to a basketball court, rent it out, and then run it. No cables. They're streaming from 11 servers, to headsets on the floor, up to 8 friends running through an environment. And it's not cheap. Here it's around about $50 or $60 a person for 15 minutes of setup time, 30 minutes of gameplay. So that sounds quite pricey to someone who's sitting off the sides, but again, it's a unique experience. I took my kids in to see, because they're both well experienced with VR, and to see whether or not I could get a 7 and 9-year-old in the experience with me and a buddy for kind of a four-player game. I was like, hey guys, can I sign a waiver and have a go? But the proprietor said, no, we've had that before, and because of the heavy gun that they have you use, which is a 2-hander, and those things are quite expensive. They're like, we don't let people under a certain age bracket, and the age limit wasn't as high as I thought it would be. It was only 10 years old, so we're getting close when it comes. And I thought that the proprietor did a really nice thing, and he's like, hey, I can offer you an on-the-house 15-minute experience. So I was like, geez, I wasn't expecting that. So they threw us into an experience called Undead Arena VR, which, as you might expect, it's a zombie shooter. But I was expecting, because I've played a lot of kind of stand-in-place zombie shooters, I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was. Okay, so the full warehouse scale, which I know, Adam, you've experienced. Rowdy, I think you did something like this with us back in the day as well. Yep. You did Star Wars with us in the Void. Did you also do that Western one with the crates for the one that Meta had on
Yeah.
place?
Yeah.
You remember that when they had Land Quests, Dead and Buried?
Dead and Buried, yeah.
The Dead and Buried experience 3v3, which why they never released that is totally beyond me. But anyway, so we got this kind of on the house run around with our kids, trapped in a viewing area where they could see the VR and the real life thing happening. And I was running around with my buddy, and we were in, just to explain the hardware, they were Focus 3 headsets, so pretty decent, but quite kind of round field of view, 5K headset. A custom Raptor gun accessory, which looked a lot like a striker, if you know what that one looks like. And in the game, you had like a selection of 3 weapons, the best of which I think was the crossbow, surprisingly, for the Walking Dead fans might appreciate that. It was a shotgun and an AR. The things that struck me, though, were really easy setup time, because comparing to Sandbox, where you've got haptic vest and all these fucking ball trackers on feet and legs and knees, and it's a full shop. And I think it's 30 minutes setup for those, 20, 30 minutes to strap everything on, get configured and all that. For first timers? You think not for first timers it doesn't take that long?
Well, they put there's hand pictures on it, so it's like, okay, these go on the hands, and then the fingers face forward. It's like child. They make it very child friendly there. I think the longest part is coming up with the team name and picking your class and weapons. that's what they do while you're putting on the stuff to kind of help make someone has something to do while someone else is putting on their trackers or whatever. A little tablet passed around. But
and do you know what, for Sandbox? Now this is the experience I didn't do, but is also here in Toronto, which I'm planning to go and try out. For Sandbox, what equipment did they use when you tried it? Do you know?
I don't remember. I mean, I have pictures and videos, so I can just go back and look at it. But yeah, I don't remember. It was a Vive headset.
It looked like
though.
They might be a custom headset. Oh, it was a Vive headset. Okay, so. Yeah, one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this at Zero Latency, which is here in Toronto and a bunch of other cities, was it's just a headset and the gun. That's it. So you've got the headset with attached headphones, that are almost, wired into the experience. You just plop that on and, dial it in. You've got the gun and you're ready to go on the floor. And that was pretty neat.
You don't have tracking then, right? You can't see your feet moving or your arms. You can't
You can't. Your feet move in some kind of inverse kinematic model, right? So there are legs moving, but it's not your legs moving if you're looking at your buddy across the way or whatever. And you can see arms, and so the hands are being, or the arms are being tracked, but you can't like point with a finger.
It's just like
from what I remember.
based, probably. Or...
Was there? There might have been.
Well, actually,
there might have been. I don't know. I was using my gun to point rather than hands, but I think the focus, because it's inside out, does have hand tracking. I'd need to think about that one a little bit. My buddy put down a couple of bullet points. I thought I'd give his thoughts on it. So he was saying it's quick setup, fun interaction to go up multiple virtual height levels. That struck me by surprise. I was not expecting. So you could walk onto a lift area and say my buddy's flat across the floor in real life, and I get lifted up right to a plane above him and can shoot down while he's shooting up. That was really cool.
Yeah.
That was like, and so I'm running around feeling safe because it was a massive area, massive arena, all kind of almost asset tagged, right? So that it would track really well. And the tracking was solid. And they were able to remote reboot my headset at the start when our sync wasn't quite right. So troubleshooting wasn't a problem, and it was really easy. It was a really clean and well-maintained environment, good for socks or even barefoot, right? They don't allow shoes in that for obvious reasons. The group dynamics were quite good. So you could, because of localized VoIP, call across the room, like say that something's happening behind you, a zombie's sneaking up on you, or shoot from, across the room and help your buddy out. So that kind of experience, I thought I'd just highlight for FPS gamers, works pretty well. I found the triggers were a little bit spongy for my taste as a gamer who likes, haptic feedback and triggers and all that kind of stuff. But I would recommend people to kind of go and give that kind of thing a shot. It is pricey, so you want to pick your experience wisely. And before you go in, know what you're getting for your money, because a lot of these experiences are either 45 minutes or 60 minutes, but with setup time cut out of that. So just bear in mind that is part of what you're paying for.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to some kind of a event, like a GDC or I don't know if there's any near VRTO, but anything kind of like that, like techie, it's always fun to take a bunch of people that you only know from the internet and just do one of these. Like I highly recommend it. It's so fun because you bond so quickly doing this. You're just yelling and laughing, and it's a great time. They're so good.
Oh. Yeah, and you've got more experience with them than I have, but those have been really, really good. The other thing that I would say about it is just that like an environment like this business in Toronto, they're starting off, and they do it's a cool business strategy to grow the business. Like I think it's every Wednesday, it's open season, so you don't have to pay at all. And I didn't even know these kinds of things existed. Where they say it's open doors, we bring in a competition, and it's teams of, I think it's 3v3 or 4v4 in a competitive arena-based shooter, and they just have people play for a couple of hours, basically, but it's pro bono. And so I thought I would just mention that, because if there's a local, VR setup like this, and you're like, I'm not going to pay 60 quid, maybe you can find one of these new startup businesses who's offering something similar. I'd never even considered that, but look it up, look at your locals, and there are a few, up and coming VR arenas. I'm glad they're still around, alive. Post-COVID, I was thinking these things will no longer exist, but they do. It's a bit of your, cinematic movie experience. But the one thing that struck me was that the owner had never heard of Space Pirate Arena, had never heard of Spatial Ops, had never heard of these things that are really, really easy to get into, have great tracking, great local Wi-Fi, and customizable levels and level design. And I was like, dude, I'm going to come back. I'll bring some headsets, and I'll show you the power of this thing. Because in this space, we could do something phenomenal. And you don't need to have 11 servers buzzing in the background that you're paying for. It might change your business model, and we don't have that yet. So I hope that one day that'll come to life. If anyone knows of an existing solution where they are running, quests, which obviously have the battery limit, which is can be a problem, and are running that kind of stuff in a real world shop or whatever, please let me know. I'd be curious about it, because I've only seen these ones that are using more like corporate scale VR, streaming off of or having all-in-one devices. So be interesting to see if those come. Okay, so that's like location based. Any other experiences that rattled up in your brains about location based experiences that you had over the years that were really good, that stood out to you, things that you remember?
I don't know, but we need to do one like FReality.
We do, yes.
One of these,
Oh, yes, you've just reminded me of something that I didn't write into for today, but I need to mention. And it is the reason that I'm wearing my Oculus Connect 4 shirt.
Oh.
Connect has been confirmed it's happening in September, but it's apparently not a physical event. So sadly, it's going to stick with online only. I think it's, I know there's a huge outlay again. I think it's because of Meta trying to save money, penny pension a year that they really need to stay all right for their shareholders. I still think that if they were to reach out to development studios and teams, that maybe we could do more of a combined Nexus event, right?
Let's make our own event.
Exactly. I think a make your own event really needs to happen.
You can even call it Oculus Connect.
I'm sure the Oculus brand is still owned by them, so I don't know how easily you can drop it around. I'd love it to be called that, but F Connect, no.
X Connect.
Let's workshop this.
F Connect X.
FX Connect. That's going to be a foreign exchange trading conference. Why are all these traders here? But yeah, we need it. We need it in our environment, and all the game showcases that are game showcases don't bring the same thing. So with that said, why don't I tell you a little bit about VRTO? One of our main topics for today. So I went off for 2 days to VRTO, which is Toronto's best spatial media conference, covering all the latest veins of immersive technology. Some of you might not have heard of VRTO before, as it's a little smaller than some of the other ones. It was started in 2015 by Karam Maliki Sanchez as a virtual reality meetup group in Toronto. It was launched then in 2016 as the VRTO Virtual and Augmented Reality World Conference and Expo. The name has since been simplified. It's an international exhibition of professional conference exploring arts, culture, science through immersive technologies. And it's really quite a different flavor of event than anything else I've tried. Proud to have it here in Toronto. Okay. In a good way. Initially, I was a bit apprehensive when I first showed up to the event last year, thinking it felt a little bit dry or educational, like oh, I'm back in university. But since last year and this year too, I've learned. So it feels less like a gamer event and more like an immersive technology conference. And the amount you learn there, and that people aren't, pitching sales and stuff to you, is what drew me back into it, to invest the time to go along. And I brought my camera along for the first time in a while because I used to be into photography, and I was like, I'll snap a few pictures. And then I got carried away and I took tons. But
yes, you did.
Adam's going to run a reel of some of them. Those are only the best from the lot. So last year I was most impressed with the forward-facing spotlight on ChatGPT, and I walked away understanding how gaming was going to integrate this technology. It was covered by a dev who's based here in Toronto called Leia Inc. He talked about his trials even in this show with the VRTO XR3, that massive high-res headset, which is like top in class, right? But he also showed off, and there's a video for this one, Adam, video 2 in the list, that gaze does not mean intent. In other words, where you're looking with your eyes is not necessarily what you want to do or select, or in this case, a horrible experiment that he concocted, and we've showcased a few of his projects. This one is where you're using your eyes to draw. Can you imagine trying to do that?
I have it up now. It looks rough. I mean,
yes. So basically, it was an experiment to see, right, what was the boundary of comfort, and also comfort and quality in terms of engagement with eye tracking. And that is one of the headsets that's been able to eye track for many months now. Obviously, some other headsets have adopted it more recently, but definitely we got the impression from Lee at just how starkly inhuman that was. So last year, Lee's ChatGPT stuff for me was best of show by far. That's why he's in the thumbnail as well. So this year, taking the crown, and my favorite of the whole event, was a relatively recent acquaintance of mine from the VR scene who pulled off a hilarious and informative rundown on haptic motors and why a maglev train and a haptic motor are similar in nature. And this was Ashley Huffman on behalf of Titan Haptics. She self-labeled herself as the Mary Poppins of haptics. I thought that was quite cute. And I skittered off to ChatGPT to learn what we'd imagine that to be. So the Mary Poppins of haptics is a magical and skilled individual who possesses the ability to harness the power of haptics in extraordinary ways. Haptics refers to the science and technology of touch feedback, for those who aren't aware, allowing users to perceive sensations through touch, like vibrations or simulated textures. In this fictional world, our character has a magical force feedback lightsaber, similar to Mary Poppins' iconic umbrella, that serves as a conduit for haptic sensations. The Mary Poppins of haptics uses this enchanted lightsaber to bring touch-based experiences to life for those around them. They create mesmerizing haptic experiences, allowing people to feel the sensation of soft raindrops on a sunny day, the gentle caress of a loved one's touch. Raise my eyebrows at that one. Or the exhilarating thrill of soaring through the sky, all through the power of haptics. Together with their whimsical personality and caring demeanor, the Mary Poppins of haptics is a captivating character who brings joy, wonder, and a renewed appreciation for the sense of touch in this enchanting fictional universe. And that is Ashley Huffman. And she gave a fantastic speech. I will cover off kind of 4 or 5 key takeaways from this on haptics that I thought just really resounded with me. Number 1, and Rowdy can maybe nod to these if he knows them to be true, in fact, in the world of science. Cardiac sync, the fact that when given a rhythm, your heart and brain will sync to be in line with that rhythm. I didn't know this. Maybe it's part and parcel of why I like haptics and vibrating vests and that type of thing so much. Second,
your brain as well?
Yeah, apparently your brain can get into sync, kind of like the alpha waves or whatever.
Yeah. All right, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, not that your brain is thumping in your skull.
Yeah, I'm saying the blood flow going through the brain.
Yeah, if anyone develops that, let me know. All right. The next one is a phased laser array, which is mouth haptics, so it can treat the air to make it feel like you're kissing somebody by stimulating the air in front of your face. I'm looking at you, Japan, with that one. We know what you're going to do with that.
With tongue or without?
I suppose no tongue. Yeah. We'll have to... Oh, God. You're putting so many thoughts in my head here, Rowdy. The next one was D-Box, right? Many of you will probably know it. I've never tried it, but it's one of those things now on my bucket list. Full experience cinema haptics, right? Where you're in there with a seat. It's a rumble seat, and it's got all kinds of things. It can move in multi-dimensions as well. Suggested, for example, for the upcoming Dune 2 movie. That's my current plan, is in November when Dune 2 launches, to go and see it in a D-Box experience with the wife and see if we like it. The other thing was wearables. So this was really interesting. Concept of like augmented reality glasses or similar, or even a vest, right? Where it, without using sound or audio cues, things that can vibrate to let you know, for example, like a Tesla, like the vehicle when it's getting close to another vehicle, can vibrate to let you know, for example, if you're walking alone at night and there's someone who's getting a bit too close or stalking you from behind. You'd get that little sensation of, hey, danger or warning, you know, just to kind of clue you off without letting them know that you know, if you know what I mean. So with all this, I just want to applaud. Ashley did a great job at a very comedic rundown of haptics. The actual Titan haptic module that they showed was like a little haptic device that has like a little, almost like a bean in a tube, and moves it back and forth, vibrates it via magnetic array, holds it and just shifts it left and right to generate that vibration. And she showcased this lightsaber, which could kind of screw apart and dismantle, and had a whole ring of these little haptic motors where you could feel the beam, like the beam of the lightsaber grow out.
That's what that is.
And then kind of when you moved it in the air, you could feel the air. It was
Wow.
pretty cool.
Oh.
So it was the best haptic lightsaber I've ever seen. This is not just a toy or a prop. This is a showcase of what Titan could do. And if you see the redness on the handle there, you can see on the video, those are all the little Titan haptic motors.
Oh, that's so cool.
Which were very convincing.
I hope she brings it to another event. I want to did you bring the lightsaber? I want to try the lightsaber, please.
It could fit in her purse. I was like, wow, we went out for like pizza afterwards and she just screwed it apart. I was like, did that all fit? Does it like shortened up. It's like 3 pieces.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask.
So cool.
Okay, so it's like 3 separate things. Okay, interesting.
Totally something a Star Wars nerd would purchase. And she talked about some stats where there's like 1 million of these like sold every year to Star Wars fans, the plastic, the shitty ones.
Okay.
So I think Titan maybe will get into manufacturing their own lightsabers, because that's a market they could jump on. Could be a breadwinner for them. And if you'd like to inundate yourself with haptic news, please check out Ashley's podcast over at thehapticsclub.com. And I can tell you this much: if Ash has ever turned into a Mortal Kombat character, I think her finisher will include uppercutting the microphone, which she did several times during her talk. It was very funny. I
love her so much. She's so great.
Yeah, you just interviewed her, I think, on your other podcast, didn't you? I need to watch that.
I don't know. She's so fun. So do they post the talks online anywhere, like on YouTube, or do you have to get a special access paid thing?
I think at some point they do. I've not checked them out in the past. I'll find out and let you know.
Thank you,
Adam. Yeah. So, and if the rest of you remind me on the next podcast, I'll let you know too. There were 2 other really standout things that happened at VRTO, and then I've got a couple of, again, like quick bullet points just to share from the event as a little like 2 days compressed into 10 minutes. So the second thing that stood out to me was just the nature of the show. This show, unlike any other show I've been to, was the best cross-section I've ever seen at an event. Every culture, race, creed, color, interest was there. And it was done in such a wonderful way. Like I was the one sole VR creator dude, right? That was me. I was in my seat. And it felt like every other person there was like cherry picked to be an individual in a seat. And it was wonderful to see that, because I felt like I'd stepped into a room where I was like 10 years in the future. And that was great. And then the thing that really struck me, because I have no idea where Karam plucked these wonderful women from, but there were 5 standout Black creators who were reframing stories on behalf of Scale Up, which is an incubator helping creators to get the spotlight they deserve in this field. And I'm going to name their names because they've got beautiful names, but they were awesome individuals to just stand in the presence of. And sometimes you get a feeling for somebody and you're like, wow. So it was Tendasai Cromwell, Nico Taylor, Queen Kokoye, Kai Littlewhite, and Debbie Deer. But rarely am I in the presence of someone where you like feel their power, but that's totally what I felt with these women. I felt small in the audience actually listening to their stories and how much they'd pushed through and what they'd done for VR, and just honestly how much experience and the challenge, particularly that AI now is bringing, right? Based on its bias and its influence and the direction we need to carry certain stories. Having grown up in the Caribbean, there were things that they were talking about bringing to VR that I totally understood, like, Black culture brought through their strong voices, not through the voices of somebody else. And that's absolutely who I'd want to hear it from. So that was my kind of second place award, if you want to call it, for VRTO. And in general, just a big applause for the VRTO team for bringing such a cornucopia of people together. If I came to to the event a third time again, that is the number one thing that would bring me, because I love seeing it. You learn stuff, you see stuff, you hear things, you get to greet and meet people who you had no chance of meeting through another walk of life. And so really appreciated that. But yeah, those women, watch out for them, because they're all killers. They're gonna do great things in VR, I'm sure. And then third place for me, and I love comedy and humor and acting and stage presence and all this. Well, there was a VR performers live summit, kind of like improv on stage. Talents on stage were Whit and Frank, Nicole Rigo, Mandy Cornelis, Irie Tar, Liam Carey, and Jake Runicles, who took the stage with a really buoyant improv session on the day. They even took the metamovie.com's still running Alien Rescue, which is a kind of a first-person Neos VR experience, which we should definitely do, the 4 of us from the show. And tickets aren't bad. They're like $33 for a hero seat, $12 for like a bystander. And they did this live for us, on stage, and they were representing various fruits as objects and experiencing them. But when you see a stage actor who's performing, for 15, 20 years on stage, and they just get thrown in it, the way that they perform and the the comedy that just comes out is like, it's great. It's like going to see a live theater show, but they're doing it on the spot. And I always appreciate that talent and what they bring. Like, you'll remember, Rowdy, when we did it with Mike and Nathy, the Dr. Crumb experience.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So the doctor himself, for example, that's Ari Tar. He's here in Toronto. So he was there, and love that guy. He's really, really cool. So if you ever get a chance to go to VRTO, these are kinds of some of the fruits of Karam and team's labor that you can pull. And then I just had a couple of bullet points to kind of take away from all of that, just to share with you. These are things that are from other people, because there were about 30 different presentations. I got about 3/4 of them I'd say through. So the first one was the concept of meta traversal. Interoperability of VR worlds. I'd never really thought about this. I guess it's something that I wanted early on in VR and subsequently thought not possible. So why can't I walk from Rec Room into VR chat, into alt space, into the next one? And they talked about a really interesting concept here with a metaphor. They said, well, you don't really want, I think Rowdy does, but you don't really want a VR hot dog walking in on your work meeting. So you got to think about how do elements like that transition. So, Rowdy can be a hot dog on the weekend, but when he's, going to do some...
I'm a hot dog in the meeting.
You are the hot dog.
He is the hot dog. Walking in on other people's meetings.
That's great. I want Rowdy to walk in on my meetings. So that was the first one. The second one, which I think we've all felt and been through over the last couple of years, is that the pandemic, really did cause us to eat our own dog food. I remember the pace of change. Rowdy used to talk about this quite a bit as well, about how, VR wasn't ready in time for us to actually use it as a productivity mechanism for work, for play. People ended up leveraging Zoom. Which means, the medium that we have, cherished over the years, it's just not ready yet. It's just not quite ready yet. But that idea of dog fooding in tech where, you get to eat, you made it, you better eat it now. And we did. And I wouldn't say it was successful, at least not from my seat. I don't know. How did you guys feel the pandemic went for VR and AR? Any applications that stood out?
I didn't eat dog food, but, I don't know, like I've always been the kind of guy, like I've never been the really like going out kind of guy, like that much. Like I do like doing like my sports a little bit, going to a bar with some friends, but that's kind of it. Like I'm not the one who's going clubbing or like going like crazy events and stuff like that. I like to be on my own, and in a way, and I had it with my wife about that as well. It's like there are aspects of that period that I kind of miss. Where, like the highlight of your day was like going out for a walk,
Yeah, little things.
And it was the simplicity of that kind of stuff that I kind of liked in a way. But of course, I mean, it wasn't a fun period. I wouldn't say like it was like, there's the limitations of you not being able to go to a restaurant, or the limitation of not going out later at night, because we even had an evening curfew in Montreal. So, but yeah, I mean, there's like it was a shitty situation, but at least it was temporary. And I think that the period that it was, for some people, maybe mentally that is very hard, but for me, sometimes that can be healthy in a weird way. Like spend some time with yourself or with your wife only, or like only your family. In a way, for me at least personally, I think that is sometimes healthy. Yeah.
And you don't have to make an excuse for why you're not going out, because nobody can go out. So it's just kind of, it feels better too.
Exactly.
It's like, that's just how it is. I don't have to make an excuse.
The idea to refocus is also something, Rowdy, that I completely agree with. Like even just this last week, I've really been trying to be not in my place, out and about, do as much as I physically can do. Sun allowing, sun permitting. I do have a tube of sunscreen now. I've learned my lesson, I hope. And it's like being able to recalibrate with yourself, even your own internal thoughts sometimes, like even if it just takes a couple days or a couple weeks or whatever it is, but like being able to recalibrate is something I think everyone should do. It's kind of like fasting, but a mental fast, right? Or even, and you can even do that, as you said, with like going out and about and all that. And I'm quite boisterous out and about person. Like I want to go out and I want to meet people and all that kind of thing. So it's nice that I now have that option. And so I leap at the option to do it or organize events or do that kind of thing. But Scotland for me was not that. Scotland for me was like no in-person friendships. You know, it was like all pretty much internet related. So I focused in on stream and that community and that audience and environment. So it was good. Any takeaways, Adam, then from things that, you know, during the, whether VR related or not, you know, during lockdown that kind of you had as takeaways, things you miss about that, or
I mean, like
things you're glad we got back?
For me, that was when I really was going super hardcore into content creation, because I was like, okay, you know, I've got more time to be able to do that now. And then it's, you know, led to so many wonderful things, like eventually working for Liv and being here with you guys. But I'm kind of like Rowdy, where I'm more introverted. So I thought of VR as just another alternative. Like I never thought of it as, oh, this is going to be a replacement. But it's like, okay, if I don't want to put on pants but still be kind of social, like I could do that. But it's just, I don't know. Like I don't really have any local friends too, like, you know, like you said, Zim, they're all online. So, and I do like being able to see them in person and at events and have a real drink with them and not get drunk in my headset, because that sounds a little, I don't know, a bit much. But so I like both. I think it's a good balance. I do like socializing, but I don't know. I like having a good mix of going out to events. That's not every day, so that's perfect for me. But also VR, if there's little things where I do feel like I need social interaction, that's good enough for me. It's good enough, you know. I don't need, it's good.
You people.
And on that, I'll give you just a couple more things. So Blair from Lo-Fi said that AI, you know, the new ability to use ChatGPT and stuff like that, does a really good job of creating a bad first draft, you know, and that you kind of, you create the bad first draft to kind of get you in the right direction and then kind of saw it down from there. Kiram, who's the event coordinator, also said you had this kind of multifaceted approach to, and these were terms I hadn't learned before, but maybe Rowdy knows this like the back of his hand: zero shot, single shot, and multi-shot drafting. So zero shot being, you can say, right, island scene, enter, give me what you want. And the idea that these platforms each have kind of in their default configuration some bias, right? But with the right configuration and, you know, being able to say, okay, island scene in a Ring of Fire, or, you know, in the spirit of Monet, or, you know, like adding different configurable elements to that through a multi-shot draft, you can lead to more human-centric output. Like, what did I want to see in my dream state? Well, here it is, output from the tool. So that's something you're familiar with then, Rowdy? You've heard those terms before?
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
The other thing I heard when we got a bit of a, and this is the thing, you get these, I explained it as veins. You get different veins of VR that you never touched before. We had a VR lawyer show up, and he said something that will stick with me now for probably the rest of my life. He said, success breeds litigation. So we got to hear about being focused on the VR frontier and how not only in the AI context, but in the context of creation in VR, that we have just brand new legal landscapes that we need to traverse, right? And companies are facing these problems. And so when you have someone talk you through all these different scenarios, you're like, oh, my mind just opened and I never understood this before. So that was fun. And I like that Mike just jumped in chat and called you Gandalf the Grey, Rowdy, which I think is very fitting.
Yeah. And soon I'll be Gandalf the White. This keeps on happening, you know.
Well, look good on you. You'll finally be able to join ABBA then after that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So with that, the other thing that I heard at this place was brain-computer interfaces, BCI. And I saw the most traumatizing video. I'm sorry I don't have it, but I will explain what it is. By Synchron Jugular Entry, which is a competitor to Neuralink. So instead of cutting into your skull, easy, they just poke into your jugular vein and send a probe up into the center of your cortex, in the center of your brain. And I love how uncomfortable Adam looks, because it's exactly how I felt when I saw this thing.
Anything about jugulars and veins and stuff, I just don't like it. Oh my God, why? Why would you do this?
We're all wet on the inside, right?
And you know what they call it, Rowdy? They call it non-invasive.
That's fine.
Well, that's not correct, though. Like, it is.
Anytime you go subdermal.
Tech,
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like, okay, great. I don't want a little chunk carved out of my brain. Just go ahead and stab me in the jugular. You know what? When old Zim was starting off on his career path and he wasn't sure what job he was going to end up taking, one of the things I did was I was a hospital porter. And one of the things I did in my career, when you're like a dumb intern, I came up to a dude who was losing blood like crazy, and I gave him the wrong blood bag, which was like a 10-minute jog around the hospital and back. And they're like,
my God.
they're like, you idiot, he's going to bleed out. You have to go get the right blood type. And so I've been there, and that's a very stressful position. But one thing I've seen is when the jugular erupts based on pressure, which it can during surgery and things, man, it goes everywhere. Like this doctor came over like it was a horror film, covered in blood, like head to toe. Oh, it was bad. Yeah. And so anyway, jugular entry, no thank you. But I thought you'd like to have that in your dreams.
Like, I mean, I am hoping they're calling this device the Juggernaut. I think that would be a great name for it. But afterwards, like, once, I mean, you can't follow, like, you still need to go into the brain somewhere, right?
Because yeah, but it goes, so the jugular goes up, and it does, they showed it, it connects into the main part of the brain. I think it goes up through the stem or the side of the stem, and then down the center of the central cortex. And that's where they would then connect with receptors to be able to make the BCI interface.
They need to go out of the jugular then in order to connect to, you know, the gray matter.
From what I saw in the video, yes. It's not staying in channel. It's not staying in channel and using kind of electronics. It was going through the
right. So it's not like a magnetic device. Then it's then going to try and induce an electrical field or something like that. It's actually going in the brain then.
In the brain. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, this is all making me feel terrible.
Thank you for not having the video. I don't know why you apologized, but I'm very grateful.
I'm very interested in it right now.
I was trying to hold my lunch down when I was watching it. But yeah, that was neat. So that's Synchron, if you want to look it up. SYNCHRON.
Should have gone for Juggernaut.
That's the jugular entry. The second thing, which I thought was neat, and I think we may have covered here, was about image reconstruction via Mind Eye. Maybe you covered this, Rowdy, before, but Mind Eye allowing, based upon, again, I think it's not an electroencephalogram. What's it called? What's the EEG?
EEG?
Yeah, so taking EEG signals, but being able to read brain waves, reduce the signal to noise ratio as much as possible because it's still a very noisy image, and then reconstruct the image. So, for example, Adam's imagining a furry grizzly bear, and the thing it will reconstruct furry grizzly bear based off the signals in her brain, the library of what it understands, and it's really close. Again, I'm sorry I don't have a picture of it, but it's like, yeah, it was very convincing, and also at the same time a little bit scary about the boundaries of, if you're taking my data, you can basically read my mind.
Black Mirror.
And then we
just
Black Mirror straight away.
Brainwaves to image. That's the next step, right?
Exactly. The question I have again is that, did they test that, like, is that within individual or is that like between individuals? Because I would assume that if they that they would, for example, first show people images and then they would reconstruct those brainwaves, record those brainwaves, train the algorithm, and then have those people think about those images again and then see if they could match those brainwaves. I don't think is it actually at the point where they can like take like brainwaves of any single person, regardless of whether they've seen the images that they've shown? Because that would, I don't think they're there yet. Right?
I don't remember. I'm going to go on my gut and say that it was based upon image looks at, so it's been trained. It's a trained model. But the image has not been put into the database. It's not reading from a database or anything like that, trying to match. It's using AI to generate an image based upon what the person is thinking and off the brainwaves. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Is the person in the database? That's basically what I'm asking. Like
what the person think
of the algorithm trained on that specific person?
Yes, it was individual specific, I believe.
Okay, right.
Yeah, it had to be trained to the individual. It wasn't a generic model you could plug anyone into, is what I understood. Yeah.
Okay.
So and I think, like you said, we're not there yet, but it's painting a road. This is what I always get from VRTO is, what's the road ahead? That's the answer I always kind of go for, and sometimes it scares me, I'll be honest. And I won't go into too much more detail. There's 3 or 4 little bullet points here. The next person who was speaking was Lana Lux, who's a Twitch dev, who was warning about negative self-talk when constructing, like building a game or an app, right? And to kind of focus on finishing something, but try not to dissuade yourself basically from that. As in today's modern era, like with Twitter, oftentimes we hide all the hard work. So you put in multiple years of hard work and all you get to see is the one thing. I can remember from this year, I mean, I personally put about 8 months of elapsed time trying to work our, new trailer along with the artist and all of our talent and all that. And then it comes out and it's like, man, we got lots of people, thumbing up the intro. And then you get your 30 seconds of fame, right? Oh, that was successful. And, I've certainly felt that along, my career in various junctures, but it is very much the iceberg and the tip of the iceberg that you see and all the work that went behind it. And that's why, again, I think engineers are the amazing ones who get to craft all of this stuff. So keep at it. Do try to finish your projects. And I'm not just speaking strictly to Lee here, who's been tinkering all year with AR projects, because I like the small unfinished stuff too. That belongs on Reddit for sure. So with that, Lana had heralded VR as an empathy machine, and I agree wholeheartedly with that sentiment. Other thing that we learned from a guy who was telling us about metrics, how metrics are being analyzed, not at the platform level, but outside in and how they were measuring. Really kind of an interesting talk, but how VR has such higher stakes than mobile or PC. So in other words, if I piss you off due to subpar quality, or I make you sick, I could send you as a user off for weeks, months, or years even, if I get it wrong. Whereas in a mobile game, you'll just be like, feck that, and tomorrow you're back, playing a different one. And they were talking about how metrics matter and what they should collect and the boundaries of what should be collected and a whole host of different things. So very interesting part on that. Could go to a convention probably about just that. 2 other things that I saw there. One was web-based 3D worlds like the mall. Now, how earlier I was talking about what would happen if we had I'll call it the soulless metaverse with ads everywhere. There's a project coming, and apologies to the guy who gave the introduction because he's a great salesman and he showed it off great. But what I saw looked like, Janus VR from years and years ago. Lots of billboards and signs, almost like a Times Square with brands everywhere. But it's like, I don't know where that belongs. I don't know where that fits. I mean, maybe at some point with people who have an interest in digital real estate and they want to own a property, maybe it'll exist in a game setting, like a Grand Theft Auto, where you can buy some advertising in the virtual world or something like that. Or maybe it's specific to you. So Adam types in a code and generates her own universe and goes in and the branding is specific to her. And it's kind of like that. But it gave me nightmares a little bit seeing that creation. And that's why I was glad that Redditor is creating something that feels a little bit more artsy. One thing that does exist, if anyone wants to play with it, really, really cool thing, by Blockade Labs. Their Skybox engine allows you to type in a couple of words and immediately generate a dome projection generative 3D skybox. So like in your Quest when you load in and you've got that world around you, you now can load custom worlds, which means, put the 2 together, you've got this, I think they're a UK-based company, certainly a UK-based speaker who came out, but you can literally type in, just like you would for ChatGPT, it will create you a world, and then you can show it. And actually, Adam, if you want to pull that website up, you'd be able.
Is that the same one that uses like Midjourney? Like you can put in a Midjourney image and it'll make a skybox out of it? Because I know there's like a couple of different stuff like this now. What was it called? Yours called?
It may be. This is Blockade Labs, one word, so BLOCKADE, Blockade Labs, and it's on their website. It's Skybox.
I can find it, but yeah,
they might own that module where you can use Midjourney to create. I believe they do. They spoke about something like that in terms of generation, and it looked like Midjourney. So I assume that is one and the same.
Oh my God! Click all the boxes. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Sell your
pop-ups
soul,
to acknowledge.
Cookies, everything. Oh yeah,
But
this.
go on. Type that in. Type in "soul your soul cookies."
Oh my God.
And let's see what it comes up with on the podcast. I'm curious.
Your soul.
Once you get through all the pop-ups. And with that, I'll talk about one more thing that I mentioned while Adam's getting that prompt entered. We got to see Dr. Tom Furness talk about Virtual World Society, which I had not seen before. But this guy is there since like very early days in, I think it was a military setting he came from, about very early like VR and how, VR was here before in a different setting. And he spoke in such depth and with such detail about where it was and where he wants it kind of to lead us to. And it was a very positive outlook as to where it's going. It wasn't in any way dystopian. So for someone who's been, working with this technology for around about 60 years, it was great to see someone who has been around the block a few times and, seen it done before, high-res displays, haptics, all this stuff, right? In bulk, your old school electronics. And that was neat to see. So Virtual World Society is something that you can participate and be a part of. If that interests you, go ahead and look them up. How did it turn out, Adam?
I think I need to be a paid member to generate depth. So it gave me like a generic Mid-Journey prompt, but in order to actually generate depth, like click the depth toggle, I get the upgrade now. So cool idea.
But even if you forget depth, it should be able to generate the thing that you can kind of spin around.
I did
that a little bit earlier.
To be able to spin it. Maybe it's just this particular prompt it doesn't like.
That's all right. We see a moon anyway, and some neon stuff. What was your input?
Sell your soul.
Okay.
It works really well. Yeah, I like it.
Yes.
That's why that moon has that nice shine to it then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, something to play with.
Tinker with it.
Something to play with for people. Yeah, that sounds good. So that was Blockade Labs' Skybox engine. Finally, I just wanted to applaud the VRTO team. This is not a mega corporation setup. It is very much like family run. And what they are able to pull off is incredible. The place that we were as well, the OCAD breakout space, was an awesome scenario for this. And you've seen it in some of the photos, I assume. But definitely the team continued to harvest and build this community. It just really looks and breathes as to like what is the future that's ahead of us. So thanks a lot to the VRTO team for letting me come along. I appreciate that, and look forward to next year's event.
Nice.
So that was a nice cross section of foresight, leading thinkers, not advertisers and all that, but really a concert of thought. With that, I did want to tell you about a single demo that I saw. I didn't get to see many because we were just in the sessions for the 2 days pretty much flat out. But one thing I got to demo, which is really neat, and I thought I'd talk to you both about it, and if you get a chance, do this yourselves. The Lume Pad 2, spelled Lume, by Leia Inc, is a 3D tablet where you don't need glasses or anything to see the effect. So similar, do you remember this is a poor comparison, but I'll give it anyway. The not Nintendo DS, but the 3DS,
Yeah,
Nintendo 3DS,
I had one.
right? Where it had that kind of quite limited field of view 3D pop-up, and it was kind of low res, but it was neat that you didn't need glasses for it. So you had one anyway, Adam, and what did you like to do with that?
What's weird is a lot of people complained about the 3D aspect of it, though, but I didn't have an issue with it. So some people, I guess they got headaches. I don't know why that was, but I enjoyed it.
Pussies.
Whenever there was a game that supported it, I turned it on. I'm like, I paid money for this to have this feature, I guess. I might as well use it. Yeah. But I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, and this is like we slid into 3D as like TV, cinema, and then we slid out of it. And we're like, okay, 3D is not ready yet, or we're not convinced. And so one of the things that's really, really cool about this is it's an AI supported tablet. And I'll just give you kind of my first impressions. I got about an 8 to 10 minute demo with the thing. In the hand, it looks like a sleek, like Apple or Android tablet, just like black home. It's 12.4 inch display, so it's not small. I would call it large without being oversized. It certainly won't fit in a pocket. It uses face tracking as well, along with its AI algorithms to know the positions of your eyes. So I asked, for example, if you have a face covering and glasses, will it still work? And the answer is, if you've got a combination of things, it breaks it, right? So it needs to either like see your eyes or see your mouth, that type of thing. So you can have a face covering and it'll track, no problem. You can have glasses, no problem. But if you have a combination of things like a baseball hat and sunglasses on or something, that can break the effect because then the AI face tracking can't grab your eyes. This also comes with some decent speakers, so it's got a quad speaker configuration and with Dolby Atmos. It can capture images in 3D or video, both from the back, the rear-facing and forward-facing cameras, what we're now accustomed to with our phones. The viewing angle for the 2D is very good. It was like 180 degrees, and the 3D is way better than I was expecting. Honestly, even when I was a bystander standing back a ways, you could tell there was a 3D pronounced effect even when you weren't the main user, which was interesting. So it's about 90 degrees. They quote 86 for that. It's a 16:10 display. That's my personal favorite. I love 16:10 displays. They give you that extra depth for, I don't know, looking at a document, viewing a website. So it's a 2560 by 1600 IPS LCD color panel, 300 nits for 3D content, 16 megapixel stereo camera. It captures video at 30 FPS, and it's got, we were talking about haptics earlier, it's got haptics, dual X-axis linear motors, so similar to the ones we were talking about when we were touching on Titan haptics. It's got a fingerprint sensor, fast charging, storage extension via SD card, but it's got 128 gigabytes of flash storage in there already, 8 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM. I am not up on my RAMs. Huge battery. It's almost got 10,000 milliamp hours. It's got 9270 milliamp hours in there. It's running off of a Qualcomm Cairo 680, which is an octa-core CPU, and the Snapdragon 888 at 2.8 gigahertz. So that's a lot of words to say this thing is modern tech. And if there's a device that I've held in my hands before, it really does feel, and they're not paying me to say this, but it does feel like a piece of the future. The fact that there are no glasses needed, it's premium look and feel, and you can instantly switch, this is the magic part, between 2D and 3D. And you don't just need 3D content, it can kind of take your existing pictures and make them 3D. It'll determine, okay, that's a person, and that person is this far away from the background. And you can swap between 2D and 3D effects. And you can do that for video as well. It can take a video, and it does a little highlight of showing you like how much depth it's picking up, which is really, really neat. One of the other things that's really cool about it is it can integrate with Stable Diffusion and do 3D image generation. So, you know, you're like mucking around with Midjourney, and this is probably where there's a video that I had with this, Adam. I don't know if you've showed it already, but
I have up PD managed to get his hands on it, so it's been showing his video, and he mentions the pictures and stuff, and it's just super cool. But yeah, I'll bring up the
it's like this is a really convincing piece of tech. And honestly, if I didn't have as many kids as I did, I'd own one of these because price point is at $1,099. That's US dollars. Okay, so for me in Canadian, it's probably about $1,500. In pounds, I'm going to guess it's about the same. You know, how things go that way. Maybe 800 quid. I don't know. I couldn't find the UK price. But I would contrast it to like a modern iPad with, you know, double the storage, 256 gigs of RAM, Wi-Fi and cellular for $999. So it's not too far off the price point if you were going for a fully loaded iPad. And it's got the ability to convert existing video or images. It's got the ability to, you know, and it can be done there on the fly. Its processing time is very quick. So you take kind of 3D video, processes for maybe, felt like 5, maybe 10 seconds, and that's ready to watch. And it can do that even with existing films and stuff like that. So really neat tech. I don't know that I have an immediate application for it, but it's absolutely, the Lume Pad 2 is the kind of gadget that I want to play with for like weeks on end. Absolutely. It really feels good. So this one's come out of left field for me. It was shown to me by one of the big names in VR Nima, who showed it off to me on the floor. So thanks for the quick demo. Appreciate it, Nima. And yeah, that's Lume Pad 2. You guys have any? Cool. Oh, one thing I was going to say, because Rowdy, this is where if you were to ask me, hey, Zim, what would you be using this for? I would lay it out and I would use it for video calls because remember we were talking about something that MKBHD had looked at a little while back. Google Star, was it Starlink? No, Star
Light.
I can't remember. Star something. And it gives you that stereo depth of the person you're speaking with. Like for me, Zoom calls being flat, and you talked about this in one of your science episodes. That does something. Starline, Google Starline. Thank you. So this is like a really inexpensive version of Starline in that you've got the depth. And for me, like why do I go into VR to like play golf or something with a family member? It's because I've got that like spatial awareness, like we're standing at a human distance apart and I'm looking at another human, even if it's through, those Zuckerberg's metaverse eyes. I still appreciate that. And that's something much better than what Zoom does to you. And it feels more human. This thing can do that with your video calls, that's why I would buy it, honestly, for me.
I would want like a hologram. Like, like speaking to my
Princess
mom
Leia,
with a hologram.
that's what you're looking
made
for?
something like that. At CES, it was kind of like was it, the shape of a head or something. And so then that head would like appear as with whatever person was talking on the phone. But PD's actually watching us in 3D from his Lume Pad. So, I'm
coming out of the screen. No.
What do people do when they know that they're in 3D? I don't know.
Hide their big nose. Cool. That's what they do, Adam. No.
I want an excuse to get one. I mean, it's a cool tech and I want one, but I don't know.
I would never have considered buying this if you advertised it to me. Having seen it, I want one now. It's like, it's kind of the opposite of what I have with Steam Deck. Steam Deck, I played with it and I was like, now I get it. And now I get why everyone, like loads of people love it. And I'm like, but it feeds a need that maybe I don't have in my life. I want to have that need, but I don't need a device that I can lie in bed and play games with for 2 hours. So this, however, feels like something that could radically change how I work every single day doing Zoom calls and see people, and then it's interpreting. They don't have to send me any additional data. They don't need one of these tablets. I just have this tablet and they don't know it, but I'm looking at them in 3D. Hey, Rowdy, put on a bit of weight. I can tell. So there you go.
Make it look thinner if you go like this. You just turn the tablet in different.
Jeez, thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Yeah. So for all the stuff that it's packing, that's really good. I looked around and I couldn't see it on places like Amazon, so it looks like you just buy it off of their main site. Ships out of the US, I believe. And there you go. That is the Lume Pad 2. So that was quite a cool thing. All right, let's. This week's releases are going to be a curated selection of desserts from Chef Rowdy and his VR kitchen. And with that, away you go, Chef Rowdy.
All right. Yeah, I picked out a couple of things that I thought were interesting. The first one is called U-Boat: The Silent Wolf VR, which is coming to Quest 2 and also at some point at least on Steam. On Quest 2 is releasing August 3rd, but on Steam there has not been really a release date yet that I could at least see. Maybe it's the same day, maybe it is not, maybe it is later. I have no idea. It's available for them for €17.99, €17.99 USD, or 13.49 British pounds. And the description goes as follows: so immerse yourself in the epic world of U-Boat: The Silent Wolf, and take on the role of a commander of a legendary World War II submarine. Experience an incredible story in the single-player story campaign, or lead a group of 4 friends in the cooperative mode. Together, track down enemies to achieve success on the maritime battlefield and demonstrate the vessel's power. Engage in thrilling battles with rival vessels, keep a vigilant eye through the periscope, set up ambushes, and watch out for enemy aircrafts. I love the bell now, going all the way, yes. So feel the true essence of being on board of a submarine, encounter the hardship and dangers that crew had to confront during the monumental global conflict. So I think the key takeaway here is that it's single player, it's multiplayer, and it is co-op, which I think is pretty unique in the VR game. I know Nathan and I played this VR submarine.
Iron Wolf VR?
It went horribly wrong. We died multiple times. I think we sunk so many ships in that one.
This is for,
even though we were submarines.
This is clearly for everybody who liked that old Sean Connery film, The Hunt for the Red October, from back in the 80s or something. But yeah, I still want to do this. Literally, Iron Wolf VR has been on my my list of to do for about 6 years now. I keep every Steam sale getting pinged, but I'm like, I'd like to do a U-boat experience.
I just remember us trying to get into the torpedo chamber to see if we could actually fire each other off, but I don't think that worked.
Wanted to load Nathan into the torpedo tube?
Yeah, of course.
I'd pay to do that.
I mean, I'd be scared if they shoot an AT at me. Jeez. Anyway, next up, it's an oldie but a goldie. I like to say it's on Steam. There's a sale going on right now, and that is Half-Life Alyx. Half-Life Alyx is currently 66% off, which I think is its best price yet.
I think so.
It's 20.05 euros, 20.39 USD, and 16.99 pounds. So 16 great British pounds.
So great.
Best VR game to date, probably. I don't think for me at least there's been a single game to top that one. So if there is any VR enthusiast that hasn't experienced this one yet, for this price, 16 quid,
Steal.
17 quid.
Yeah,
Steal.
and also I think it's also a good thing if Half-Life Alyx as it's presented wasn't for you, look at mods, right? Because you have things like Gunman contracts, and there's a bunch of different mods that change the game up quite a bit. So there you go.
Yeah, and then next one that I had on the list was Phantom Matrix. That has already released on Steam. It's a bit of a weird one. I picked it up because I thought the description looked funny. That's the main reason why. So it's currently 10% off, again, because of the sale. So it's only €11.51 or 11.69 USD and 9.89 Great British pounds. It's kind of annoying to have to say because it's like 10% of the price, but every time with the conversions that gets gets so many cents now. Anyway, Phantom Matrix is a theatrical, physics-based stealth puzzle VR game. And now comes the funny part. I read this and I was like, what's going on here? Your game has been robbed. Your mission is to seek the truth after all mankind has been possessed. Armed with your wits and the game power, knocking hats off employees' heads. It's time to save your game and friends.
You need to be on drugs to play this game.
I have no idea what this is. So wait, is it a multiplayer game?
No, I don't think so.
And you're knocking the hats off of your...
It says knocking hats off employees' heads. And employees, apostrophe S, head.
So much going on.
Knocking hats off employees'
I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
well,
it's a free demo that is available as well.
Yeah, okay. I can see the hats.
You're knocking... I think it's the way that I've seen it at least is that you need to figure out a way to knock the hat off, that kind of character. So it's this puzzle physics based kind of thing.
This is that kind of game that when you go outside into the normal world after this, you're going to be looking at people a different way. You're going to be looking at hats on the street and be like, what do I throw at you?
Yeah.
This is such an odd Phantom Matrix.
It's so weird. That's why I picked it up.
Yeah.
Interesting though.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was it. I got some real gems still coming. Another one here, House Flipper VR.
Oh God.
We know that one, right? That one. We already talked about it before. It's already been on Steam for, I don't know, God knows how long, but it's now coming to PSVR. There's been a lot of mixed reports about it. The description goes as follows. Virtual makeovers were never more real. Thanks to VR technology, you will be able to single-handedly take care of ruined properties, gaining your clients' appreciation and satisfaction from a job well done. Put on your goggles, take a firm grip on the controllers, and become a master of renovation. The interesting bit, though, and I've been trying to dig because there's been so many mixed things about, what this game is being released for.
Yep.
So I've seen things saying this is a release for the PlayStation VR and not for the PSVR 2.
Yeah.
And since PSVR games aren't compatible with PSVR 2, you will need the original PSVR headset to play House Flipper VR. But then I saw an upload that they actually specifically mentioned that it was for PSVR 2. I looked on their own website and I just gave up. I couldn't figure it out. There was no mention of it whatsoever. But the trailer does say PSVR. Yeah.
Yeah. All the branding tells me that this game is is it a new 2023 release for PSVR 1? It looks like it.
It would be strange, right? I had the same question, but I couldn't, I did a little bit. I didn't do that much research. So there's probably someone can do it way better than me, but I couldn't immediately figure out if this was now actually releasing for PSVR or PSVR 2, and sites were giving mixed reports.
Huh.
Some sites were saying, one specifically said, bear in mind this is a release for PSVR and not for PSVR 2.
Yeah, I see some people on Reddit saying that it's coming for PS5. In other words, a flat game as well. Maybe it's both.
Yeah, it is,
Maybe
but
the
that's a
answer is
different
both.
game.
Maybe I've seen a lot of titles that are in this same category of the same pedigree and the same kind of year being converted
Right.
in this amount of time. So it's not. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's both.
Yeah.
Weird.
And then I got two more quick mentions. The first one is one that Zim sent me. That was the Bethesda VR collection bundle that consists out of Skyrim VR, Fallout 4 VR, Wolfenstein Cyberpilot VR, and Doom VR. All four of those games for €24.99, €24.99 USD, or 22.99 British pounds. And then the last one, I mean, this must be Adam's favorite. Look, she's already laughing.
Uh-oh.
So we now also have, very importantly, we have Barbie outfits in Rec Room. So Rec Room has partnered with Mattel to release Barbie and Ken themed outfits for players, in-game avatars. So finally, Zim can now rock the iconic cowboy hat and the belt, as we've seen in the official motion picture. I know that you mentioned, Zim, that you already tried it out and you absolutely loved it. Do you have the pictures available that you shared, or are we not sharing those pictures?
Yeah, we're not sharing those pictures, Rowdy.
You know what? Good marketing on their part, though. I think between Barbie and Diablo, which are two total opposite things, both of their marketing teams have been really good about, like, you see them literally everywhere, on everything, in everything.
Speaking of marketing,
exactly.
like, where's the Oppenheimer one? I want the Oppenheimer outfit. Like, I don't know what that would be, but
yeah.
that whole thing.
Well, I mean, they have particular outfits. They could do it.
Yeah, maybe.
But I guess
Jesus.
Barbie is more striking.
Is that paid for content then? Or I suppose it's rec token you pay for.
I have no. Yeah, I mean, I did look up a video, and I think it was with tokens. But yeah,
They're available for purchase in game right now. Yeah.
Don't really go into Rec Room that much.
Oh boy, wow, that is some stuff. You want to give us a recap then, Rowdy? If that's the end of your list.
Yeah, sure. Let me just get it back here. So first and foremost, don't forget to claim your Barbie outfits in Rec Room. Then we have U-Boat, the Silent Wolf VR releasing on Quest 2, August 3rd. Half-Life Alyx, be sure if you want to pick it up to do it soon, because that promotion is not going to be lasting for that much longer. It's currently 66% off, and it's probably the best VR game to date. We have Phantom Matrix that just recently released on July 29th, also now 10% off. And we have House Flipper VR. If for some whatever reason you would want to play this, just make sure you have and a PSVR and a PSVR 2 just to be able to play it. Yeah, and then we also have the Bethesda VR collection bundle containing Skyrim VR, Fallout 4 VR, Wolfenstein, Cyberpilot VR, and Doom VR for a really good price.
Yeah, good price. And if you're going down that route, definitely look up mods for Fallout and Skyrim. You'll want them for inverse kinematics and all kinds of stuff. Well, Rowdy, thank you very much for covering off our releases this week.
No worries.
Appreciate that. Not so much the Barbie comment, but the rest were great.
You were saying that you loved it. You were absolutely adoring it.
You spent like $150 on Barbie clothes in a Rec Room.
We're all friends here. Yeah.
You guys are slandering me so much these days. It's not that. It's Adam calling me out for My Little Pony or this or that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love, Zim on Discord, where you get to show, whatever game you're playing. Zim's Discord game is always so random. Last time it was, Peppa Pig, and then this week it was My Little Pony. And it's like, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas this year.
I swear to God, I've got little girls. I swear to God, I've got little girls. Sure thing. Right. Well, to help us wind up here and pull me out of the limelight, here are the regular show times. The FReality Podcast runs every other Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show kicks off at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. in the UK. For our audio-only listeners, or simply the convenience of being out and about, we treat you to iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify versions of the show. And when you've enjoyed a particular episode, a like will help us know that you're supportive. The comment section, however, is primarily if you think we're a bunch of arseholes with poorly informed opinions and you wish to battle us to the death. Just remember that. Chat, thanks for listening to us live about the latest tidbits about VR and AR, this evolving landscape. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next FReality Podcast. Bye for now.
Bye.